Hi, welcome to the Coaching Game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight I am so thrilled to tell you that my guest is Gaurav Arora. Welcome, Gaurav. Gaurav is here from India, and he tells me just to do the show. I'm going to believe it. I'm so thrilled that you're here. I think he's going to probably do some New York City stuff too, but that's all right. And Gaurav and I have been friends for oh so long. We actually host a radio show together called Meaning and Madness. He is the ICF chapter president of the Hyderabad chapter, which is the only chartered ICF chapter in India.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a coach, you're gonna see Gaurav's name around. So I am so thrilled to have you, and I
That's a
so
pleasure.
appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Laurie.
I'm going to just tell you briefly a bit about the coaching game. If those who don't know, the coaching game is based on points of view. The coaching game, and this is a fantastic coaching tool that was created in Israel, one of the other countries, in Israel, and. It's a card game with cards that are designed to bring right and left brain thinking together, and the results are amazing. My friend here has decided that we are going to chat, but we are going to just randomly draw cards and chat about that. We're going to want to talk about some differences between coaching in India and the United States, and also where he wants to speak to leaders, and we're going to find out what kind of leaders, are these industry leaders, are these coaching leaders, what is his message? So, do we want to start by just drawing a card?
Absolutely, you tell me.
Okay,
I'm
let's
ready
go.
to play this game.
Okay, then we're going to do this because I trust the card so much. We'll do it face down. Pick one and let's see what it goes.
So let's start with this. But let me tell you, Laurie, I'm here only for you and only for this show.
Okay.
You can trust me.
All
on
right,
this, yeah?
he's
And
here.
here is the card. It says ego. Wow.
Ego. Oh, that's what we were talking about.
That's
okay,
interesting.
this is the card, ego, and what we're going to do is, so what are your thoughts on ego? We were talking before about autonomy, which may have or may not have a thing. So ego is the card. What's the message?
A few days back I was reading this book by Eckhart Tolle, The New Earth. And I think the book revolves around this only, ego. That how everything that we do is somewhere related to our ego. And the moment we are aware of that, we can actually step into a different pedestal altogether. We can step onto a different platform altogether where we can be our own self, where we could actually show up more brighter than who we are.
No, are you recommending that we enhance the ego or that we drop the ego?
So be aware of your ego.
And
Be aware of your
it
ego, I would
and
say.
see how it will serve you.
Say how
yes.
it serves, right? And I'll not say enhance your ego, definitely not.
We
but
usually
be
need to
aware of
temper it
your
down,
ego.
yes.
Be aware of your ego, that you have ego. Most of my friends, they call me, you're Mr. Humble. I know, and they're like, most of the times they're like in a very sarcastic mode when they say that you're being very humble. I know I'm not. But I think I personally have some ego, which I use to channelize my energy to achieve what I really want to achieve. And in case you don't have ego as well, I don't think that you'll be able to achieve what you really want to achieve. So I would say be aware of your ego and play, not to win over others, but to win over yourself. Say to yourself that I'm going to do it, and let it be ego and do it anyways.
Right.
So I would say it's very important to have ego and be aware of it and play, don't win over others, win over yourself, and see the magic that you can create in the world.
It's interesting because that's such a fascinating card because it's a dance. It's like, okay, with not enough ego, then you let all these obstacles stop you from doing what you want, and without, and you have to build the self-esteem, and that's the role of a coach, to help people realize just how cool they really are. And then you also have to, I think it's perspective. You have to put your ego in perspective with the rest of the world. But first you have to build it up, and see I'm capable of all this.
And also, Laurie, as I'm talking to you, I'm just contemplating and thinking in my mind that it's very relative as well. And when I'm saying relative, when I'm talking to you, I'll rather keep my ego to one side, right? Because the more I'm fully present, the more I'm aware, ego anyways goes out of the room. And that's what Dr. Eckhart Tolle talks about, the ego and awareness. They cannot reside together.
Okay, wait a minute. Ego and awareness
Cannot reside together.
Oh, because you're busy into yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
yeah.
you know, we have this Lord Buddha on your table.
Yes.
And that's a symbol
A gift
of
from Gaurav. Thank you
that's a
very
symbol
much.
of awareness. That's a symbol of peace. That's a symbol of serenity. And I'm just wondering how it is to have both of them together.
Isn't that great?
Isn't it beautiful
That's-
that we have got?
I think he made you draw that card.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful. Eckhart Tolle talks about that how ego and awareness cannot stay together. And yet we have it symbolically, right? In a very literal way, we have got the symbol of peace here, the symbol of awareness here, and yet we have got the card of ego.
Which and with, you know what, in almost everything there is a bright side and a dark side.
Yeah.
And if you can just sort of bring it together and temper it, maybe.
And that's what integration is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and this is what we were talking about when we were talking about the sense of autonomy and the sense of belongingness. And how would it be for a leader to bring both these together and then show up as a leader with courage?
Tell us how it would be, because I had trouble with that concept, because we were talking and he was saying, well, I think two of the things that leaders need to be aware of and bring to the table are autonomy, or be aware of for their employers or their clients, autonomy and
Sense of belongingness.
yeah, and okay, how do we do that? And again, a delicate dance.
Okay, so the more I'm traveling, right, the more I travel, not only in the country, but different parts of the world, the more I realize that how, as an individual, we have a deep sense of belongingness, right? Let's look at the different communities that we have, right? Buddhism in India is a very strong community,
Yes.
very, very strong community. Now, what do I get when I enter this community? A sense of belongingness, that I belong to a family who believe in a common concept.
Okay,
That
like
sense
that.
of belongingness, right? Visit any place, right? Let's talk about ICF, where we have got all the coaches traveling from different parts of the world coming together and saying that, you know what, we celebrate coaching.
Right.
We celebrate coaching. Let's go to another community and where we say that we celebrate life, right? In the third community, we celebrate one particular thing.
Okay.
So that's one of the basic need that we have, and what we call is a sense of belongingness, right? And tomorrow I'll flaunt this, that I've been to this coaching game. I belong to this show as well.
Yes, you do.
Right.
Most definitely.
And that's one of the basic need of an individual. Now let's talk about, when we talk about the purpose, right? Each individual has got his own deep purpose, her own deep purpose.
Right.
And your purpose is absolutely different from my purpose. Your path is absolutely different from my path. And that's what I personally call it, the sense of individualism, the sense of autonomy.
But yet we come together with the common goal, I think,
Yeah.
of wanting to spread the message about coaching.
Precisely.
And that's how the radio show
Precisely.
came about. That's
Precisely.
why you're here. That's
Precisely.
why. And so autonomous, and yet we have a common cause too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why we're bringing together. It's like a wonderful fruit salad, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right? Where each fruit would have a sense of individualism, a sense of autonomy, that I matter,
Right.
right?
Right.
I do make a difference in people's life. I do make a difference in the world. It's a huge world of 7 billion population.
Yes.
And I have my own identity. And yet
Which is
I
amazing.
belong to this community. And so that's what I often talk to leaders, that how would it be if you could actually give this gift to an individual? Where I really value the way you show up in this organization, the way you show up in the world. And yet we belong to the same community. We belong to the same cause. We belong to the same purpose. We belong to the same belief.
Okay, so it's like, so for leaders, it would be like, okay, I value the way you show up. And how can you enhance and advance our goals as a team or a group? Or
Wouldn't it be amazing?
That would be real. It sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Leadership, I think, is the most natural way of being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now the question is, the more we study about leadership, the more we try, and I will talk about myself, the more I'm trying to know about myself, the more confusion I'm creating here, right? The more I'm achieving, the more confusion I'm creating here.
Is that good or bad?
It's good, I would say. Confusion is always good.
You
I mean,
like confusion,
confusion
okay.
is always followed by clarity. Either I can be happy in this small cocoon world where I am, or I can have some confusion here and just go for
keep
it.
going and
Like,
keep and expanding. Yes,
absolutely
expanding,
right.
yeah.
Confusion is the first step to get clarity, and with clarity is power, Laurie.
Yes, yes. Clarity, and my problem with clarity is that I don't have it, but is also that clouded by our own personal perspectives. But I'm hearing you say with autonomy, that's a good thing. It's like we all need different perspectives.
Absolutely.
And if we can commingle them and merge them, and then you do have, I think a leader would have a great group of people to lead if he would encourage that.
And the way you said it, right, it's a very subtle dance.
Yes,
right?
yes, a little.
It's like a dance between ego and awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dance between autonomy and sense of belongingness.
Right.
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 It's a dance between you and me, what you offer to this conversation, what I'm offering to this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The common purpose is that we belong to this coaching game.
Right.
And we have a common purpose. And yet in this conversation, I matter as much as you matter as much as I matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
3 days back I was in Atlanta and I visited Martin Luther King Memorial. Now he's a great guy, right? He's a great guy. The deep sense of belief that he had for himself and for the nation, a deep sense of cause that he was living. And on one of the walls it was mentioned that I matter as much as you do. And I cannot live my purpose unless you live your purpose. And the wall says that how the world is a world where the world believes in the theory of interrelatedness. Right? I relate to you and you relate to me.
Right.
And I'm no one unless you are here. The theory of interrelatedness.
That's amazing. Yes, yes, okay.
So how everything is when we are bringing things together, it's not about or, it's about and, it's about integration, and everything blossoms. And now, I do understand this at the cognitive level. Do I believe it? Yes. Am I able to imbibe it within myself?
America's still working on that.
So am I.
Yeah. So am I.
I think the complete world is working on
You're
this.
Right,
It appears very simple.
Let me ask you a difficult question, or what I think would be a
I
difficult
believe
question.
in, Laurie, I believe in simplicity. Please don't ask me difficult questions.
How, in a system, now, we have our problems with racism and classism and socialism. In a system in India where you have a more rigid structure of caste, can you speak equally to all people, or do you tailor that message?
Is that a question to me as an individual or
Yes,
me
yes.
representing India?
No, I wouldn't put you in that spot.
Fantastic. Then that's a
I
simple
wouldn't put
question.
you in that spot.
I love all humanity.
I don't want to get the president mad at you.
Absolutely, that would
No,
be
but I
better
mean,
then.
how would you, as a coach, because I think, truthfully, I think coaches are far more advanced than governmental people. And so, no, I want to know with you individually, how do you address that? And if so, how?
So I listen to questions. One is, do I address that? The first one is, do I speak to them at the same level? Is my understanding right?
Right.
I'll address the first question when you ask me that, do I speak to all the caste at the same level? My answer is definitely yes. Definitely yes.
Okay, good.
Whether it's religion we talk about or the caste system. Now, the best part about India is a land of diversity.
Yes.
Right.
How many languages? Too many.
Oh, I'll have to count.
Too many.
Right? India is a land of diversity.
Yes.
And every time when I travel anywhere in the world, people ask me, what's so special about India? And I said, the moment I start talking about what's the speciality in India, what makes India special, then I would need days and days together, right? And why I'm saying what I'm saying. Let's look at the country, right? So in a country, the last president was a Muslim, right? The prime minister was Sikh. Different states had different people from different caste. That's what India is all about, right?
Fantastic, yeah.
In one place, you'll find people talking different religions, different people speaking different languages. They celebrate all festivals together, right? They eat different foods, right? And I've been missing my Indian food for so many days. So
I know.
I'll request you if you can treat me with an Indian good food, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'll turn you on to some
Yeah.
here, yes.
And yet I will not say that we don't have problems, right? I personally believe that in case we don't have problems, then we are living in a world which is full of illusion, which is full of Maya. You know, I'm actually looking for an idealistic world which is not present, an idealistic country which is not present.
Right.
Right? I'll not belong to a country which is so idealistic. I don't want to be perfect, right?
No.
I don't like perfectionism.
We'd have nothing to do, yes.
I don't like perfectionism.
Yeah.
Not because I don't like it, because I know I cannot be one.
Right.
I love that those spices, right? When I'm actually eating something which is sweet, I would love to have some salt there. And that's what brings India at that level, right? So coming back to your question, do I speak to all the religions, all people from all castes at the same level? Definitely yes. I love that. Yeah, I think diversity is power. That's what India shines. I'm in love with India. I'm in love with the diversity that we have to offer to the world. I'm in love with India
too. I think it's a country with a rich heart.
Absolutely.
You know, maybe a poor country, and I don't know, and it certainly depends on where you are, but it's a rich heart, and that's what I found. But I love your answer, because I think that's the goal of the coach, to speak to the individual, no matter where they are, and to give each goal, each concern, its own importance, because, you know, I have a saying here that, you know, some of our problems are very first world. It's like, oh my God, what kind of new car should we get? You know, as opposed to, let's get down to the real basics. So it's, you know, no matter where the person is, if that's my real concern, that's my real concern. Do I want to coach it? I don't know, but, you know, but still. So I love that you're saying I'm speaking to the individual, and I'm appreciating the diversity. I love the diversity.
There's a lot of diversity. And talking about, is India a poor country? I will not choose to agree to that as well. Let's look at the different element. Now, let's look at the different dimension to that. If you compare the land available in India and the space available in US, right? We are anywhere closer to what is available to you, right?
Right.
America is a huge country.
Very huge.
It's a huge country. India is not that huge, right? And we can't do anything about that.
Right.
Now let's look at the population. Our population is any day more than what we have in US, right?
Right.
Now, it's like we have got a huge cake here and few people to eat, right? And here we have got a small cake and we've got more people to eat, right? So I would not say we are poor. I think at one point in time, India was known as the golden sparrow of the world, right? What we call as Sone ki Chidiya, and we definitely have some big time challenges, and India is definitely working on that. I think I'll hold myself responsible for that I need to do something about it. And we are really rich in culture, rich in generosity, rich in giving to people, rich in history, culture. As you said that we have got big heart as well. So we are really rich people. The challenge is that we have got less space with more people, so that also means that we are so willing to share that with everyone. So that's another element why we would say that we are really rich people.
I found that also. I found that everyone was willing to share.
Absolutely.
And we've had some amazing people on Meaning and Madness, which is
full of meaning and full of madness together.
And they've taken impossible things like feeding, 30,000 children a day?
That's Akshay Patra, right?
Yes. You know, just some really amazing things going on. So tell me, who is your client in India? Who is your ideal client in India?
So in India, I do a lot of leadership development work, right? I do a lot of leadership coaching work with most of the corporates, right? Whether it's IT industry or it's automobile industry. Just for the sake of confidentiality, I'm not quoting the names, right? So automobile industry, I'm serving. IT industry.
I love the story you tell when you walked into one place, they said you need to come back when you have a gray beard.
I know.
Yes, I remember that story.
I know that was the initial phase.
But that's another beautiful part of your country. Wisdom is appreciated and age is appreciated. Whereas here, we're the youth culture. Oh my God, don't let us get old, you know. And whereas it's a real benefit to do that. But so that was so funny. And they actually told him, well, you need a gray beard and then come on back.
People said we either need gray hair or no hair. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not comfortable with either one of them.
I like being a coach, but there's a limit.
Absolutely,
there's
yes.
a limit.
Absolutely, yes.
I'm sorry, but I just remembered that story.
Coaching
That
is
was
only
so
one
cool.
part of what I do, Laurie, right?
Yes.
Would you like to talk to somebody who's like without hair?
I wouldn't mind. I mean, because I think I would.
But you would prefer me over that person, right?
I prefer you over anyone. Of course, yes. So when you go into these, when you're doing leadership development, what is the biggest need? What is the biggest challenge you see?
Challenge? That's a great question. Okay. And I think that's a challenge which I have observed with most of the teams that I've worked with. And they are very, very basic challenges. One is the relationship. I think relationship is one area. Between peers, leaders and leaders, right?
Right.
Leaders and subordinates, right? And this is less and this is more of the challenge, right?
Yes. I think so too.
At the same level, right? That's a big time challenge.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the challenges. And another challenge is co-creating the future together, right? The moment people start believing that they're leaders, in this belief, in this journey of from being an individual contributor to being a leader in this journey, I think the designation hits here, right? And we forget that leadership is not about the designation that you hold. It's a journey and the role that you play.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. As a leader, I'm not here to be a dictator. I'm here to serve you. So that as much as I show up in courage, you could show up in courage, with courage.
Or I allow you the space to
right?
Vary from the path. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think these are a couple of the challenges. One is the relationship. Second one is creating that, as you said, creating that space for your team where they could show up from courage, in courage, with courage.
Right.
Right. Where they could be more than what they think they could be. So as a leader, can I infuse in that kind of energy in my team member, where they will start believing in themselves more than they used to believe when I was not there?
What are the benefits? What do the companies get from doing that?
I think that will transform everything, isn't it?
I agree.
Let's look at a few of the leaders, right? Whether it's Nelson Mandela or Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King. I'm highly inspired with all these three people. I doubt if they were looking for a designation. They were not. Or were they?
You know what? I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think you're right.
And 4 days back, I was in one of the conferences where I was representing as the president of so-and-so chapter. And while listening to one of the leaders, I was questioning myself that am I playing a very small game where I'm just being the president of a community which is like 200 people?
It's a big job. I've done it, believe me. It's a big job.
But isn't it a small game because I'm getting stuck with the designation? Right, and I literally had tears in my eyes, Laurie, because I was thinking that I'm actually meant for something big. I'm not here to play such a small game, right?
It's a step.
It's just one life, right?
Yeah.
And you can't afford to play such a small game.
That is something that gnaws at the back of my head all the time. It's like time is wasting.
Yeah.
There's so much to do. I almost killed myself last year trying to do everything. And I said, this has to be the year of choice. But it's like, you're right. It's how do we temper that? Because I know I don't want to say ego, but maybe I do want to say ego. Your ego and mine says, you know what? I can do this.
I can do bigger things.
I want to do it. Yeah. Why can't I do everything?
Yeah.
You know?
Now the question here is when I'm saying I would like to play a bigger game. Now, as you know, coming back to the card, is it my ego speaking? Because the big itself represents something for me, right?
Yes.
Is it my ego speaking when I'm saying that I would like to do something big? What do you mean by big? Now, coming back to the basics, now playing with Buddha, it says, am I willing to be aware of where I am and be comfortable with who I am and yet willing to make a difference in people's life? Right? Am I willing to play with and dance with my sense of autonomy that I matter and yet I belong to this community called world?
Right. I kind of equate that to when I was doing my coach training. In the beginning, my training consisted of 3 modules. And the first mod was like all about me. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know that, and I didn't know that. The second module was like, you know what, this stuff is so good, I have to share it. So it's like, yes, it's about me, but it's like, no, I've got to share it because I want everybody to have the me feeling that I have. And I want everybody to play the biggest game they can. So I love what you're saying, and that's just inspiration. It's like,
Absolutely.
I want to play a bigger game so I can encourage others to play a bigger game, right? So yeah, the ego's in there. You can't get away from the ego.
But the question is, when you are playing that bigger game, how do you define that big game?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And I love that you said it's not a destination, because I think we're so goal-oriented as a people, or as, modern day people. It's like, and my tagline is, life is a journey, not a destination. Enjoy the trip. And I have to constantly go, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? So that's a message.
It's like a dance between happiness and fulfillment. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'll be fulfilled when I'm actually making a difference in people's life. I'm happy being the president or the CEO or so-and-so of this community. I'll be fulfilled when I belong to a community where Martin Luther King belongs to.
Wow.
Right?
My heart. Yeah.
I mean, as I'm talking about this, I've got goosebumps because it'll not be an easy ride.
I spent the whole weekend in goosebumps because it was the anniversary of the March in Selma, and there was Martin Luther King, and then it was, now I have goosebumps, Obama. And it's like, can you imagine 50 years ago where they were being beaten to just walk across the bridge and there's a black president? It's like, somebody had to see that this journey has to start. Yes. But I'm sure the goal wasn't in 2015 we'll have a black president. No, it was just like, let's move forward and let's all do it together. And that's the autonomy, the individual, what can you bring to the march, and that's the belonging. I'm part of this movement.
Beautiful, Laurie, as I'm talking to you, and we were talking about how leadership is all about creating that space.
You got to wrap it up because we have 1 minute.
Absolutely.
Do you believe that?
Now, my question is, Barack Obama is the president. Would it have been possible without Martin Luther King?
He says no. He says he's the person who inspired him to get into politics when he saw what Martin Luther King was doing. So who knows? And you don't know who you're influencing, especially in India, and I don't know who I'm influencing. But all we can do is get out there and do what our heart tells us is the best thing to do with others in mind, and gather the group and bring them along.
And I can definitely tell you whom you have influenced. Ooh. I'm one of them.
Oh,
definitely,
thank you.
Right? Definitely.
And you've influenced me. And his email also has something about inspires in it, and he does. Every time you talk to Gaurav, he inspires. And I can't believe our time is up. I can only thank you so much for
Laurie.
Sharing your New York City venture with me.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure. It was a pleasure to be in this conversation with you on this show, The Coaching Game, and I look forward to be your guest once again.